Welcome back to Meet the Authors. So glad you could stay with us. Our second guest today is Rachel Dangermond. Rachel, thanks so much for coming on to the show.
Thanks,
Put
Philip.
her name up there for us. And this is going to be quite the adventure. Rachel does not have actually a book out for us, but she has so many writing adventures and enthusiastic ideas, and she's going to talk a lot about her teaching. So Rachel, let's hear about it.
Well, I started off writing in school like a lot of people. Went to college, wanted to be an English major and be a writer. I wanted to be the Madonna of fiction writers. I wrote a lot of fiction, short stories, novellas. I got great rejections.
Yeah, I love those rejections.
Yeah.
You
Kept
think,
all
God,
of
this is
them.
my life work. It's so beautiful. How come you don't love it?
Right. Loved it. It was great, you know. And then I was, was constantly working on my writing. And then I got involved in investigative reporting on Wall Street. And I started making a living that way.
So wait a second, let me interrupt you there.
Yes.
You were writing articles that were about, you were actually doing investigations in Wall Street, and where were they published, these articles?
These were bought by hedge funds and private institutional investors. Were buying research from a research company that I wrote for.
Okay.
Right, so that took me, because I was making money there and able to make a living, something that was very difficult the other way.
Yeah, it's hard to make a living as a writer.
It's hard to make a living as a writer. I think, yeah. So
They always say, don't give up your day job.
Don't give up, yeah, any of your jobs. So I was working, doing this investigative reporting, and so I started blogging. And I started blogging in 2004, and I was out in California, even though I'm from New Orleans, and I ended up moving back in May of '05.
To New Orleans.
To New Orleans. So 3 months before, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was one of the few bloggers who actually blogged all the way through Katrina and afterwards. And I had been doing that on Dangermond.org forever. And
Here it is, Dangermond.org.
correct, yeah. and then when I turned 50, I adopted my son. And my son was 9 months old, and he's African American, and I'm Sephardic. I'm a Spanish Jew, and so I thought I knew what it meant to like not be white, kind of mainstream. But after adopting my son, it's as if the scales fell from my eyes. I started seeing things, and was very curious as to how I was able to adopt this child who needed much more cultural awareness than I actually possessed. So I began writing about it, and I started another blog called Transracial Adoption. Transracial parenting, Transracial parenting, about transracial adoption.
All right,
and I started speaking out to social worker groups and to other groups, foster groups, adoption groups, about becoming more conscious of cultural issues when raising a black child. And in doing that, I was like fervent about writing a book so that people would just understand. I wanted people to really understand what was going on. And so I wrote this book, and it was very didactic and very, backed up with all this research and stats and everything. And
Things like the type of writing you used to do in the
exactly.
Yeah.
And I showed it to some friends of mine. One of them is Roger Kamenetz. He's an author, a writer. He wrote The Jew and the Lotus. And he looked at it and he said, Rachel, you have a story to tell. Why aren't you telling your story? Why are you telling this story? And so I thought about it, and I signed up for this memoir writing group done by this woman in Woodstock, New York, called Authentic Writing. And I took her course, and it was just as if the vein opened, and I started telling my story. And my story was, in truth, I did not know how to be the mother of a black son. I didn't. And once I started telling that truth, it became the story. And so I wrote essay after essay, and then those essays all got compiled into the essay that is published on Medium. And so then that became the writing style that I did, and it also became a workshop that I offered to other writers. And through some stroke of luck, I guess, I bought and moved into the 100-Man Hall in Bay St. Louis.
Here in Mississippi, Bay St. Louis, the writing room at the 100-Man Hall with that website. All right, nice.
And I started offering these workshops there. The 100-Man Hall is a very special place. It is.
And you own it.
I own it.
Yeah.
It's sort of crazy. It's an African-American landmark. It's on the Mississippi Blues Trail. It was a significant venue on the Chitlin circuit. James Brown has played there, Ray Charles, Etta James, Professor Longhair. It's insane who's played there. And
yeah,
so,
sounds like a landmark, all right. We've got a lot of history there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to tell the story of that hall. I want to tell my story. And my son's 9 years old, so I'm still raising him. So, you know, Eudora Welty said that Southerners live their narratives.
No.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm living it, I'm writing it, but
I like that.
it's all coming together.
And so you were telling us that you actually give seminars, you give courses there. What's the third Saturday?
It's the third Saturday of the month at the 100-Man Hall, but it's less core. Any writer can come. You could be a novice, you could be experienced. It is a platform to write and to read.
Is it it's a seminar? So do people pay?
They pay, yes.
How much is it?
It's $75. It's from 1 to 5 on Saturday.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good price. And and then it also supports the hall as well. And I have a maximum of 10 people that I allow. And we write and we read together, and we write some more and we read together, and it's writing and telling your story.
It's a critique group in some ways, a teaching critique group.
It's more of a feedback than critique. I wouldn't associate it with like a writing workshop that I've taken at the university, because it's not, somebody is not going to say to you, oh, I think you should do it this way, or you are reading and people react almost on that 5th grade level, that visceral, emotional, wow, that really moved me because of this. It connected me to your story because of this. And so it's a wonderful way to write.
So you're putting together a book of these essays about your experience. How's that coming?
It's coming. It's coming. You know, remember, I've had this experience of being the mother of this wonderful child, and all of that has opened up in my life. And then at the same time, he and I have bought the 100-Man Hall. I always call them the 101st Men.
And we're first man. I like that. Yeah.
And we're trying to resurrect it, tell its story, keep it, alive, and so we're on a journey together, really.
How did you come across adopting? How did that come about that you adopted an African American boy?
Well, first of all, I was 50 years old, so when you're 50, you're kind of shut out of a lot of agencies. And the hard facts and the truth is that if you want to adopt a child, mixed race or African American children are easier to adopt. That is the unfortunate truth. And so my son was born in Gary, Indiana, and that is an area that is extremely poor. For many reasons. You can look at capitalism, racism, whatever you want to look at. And for all those reasons, that city is very poor, and they have a high adoption rate too. And so that's how I came to adopt my son, and I can say that I was woefully unprepared.
Yeah.
So, but we talk about that a great deal.
And what do you have planned for the future?
Well, I have a book called Meditations on Race and Parenting that I plan to self-publish in 2019. It was going to be picked up, I can't, what is the name of that religion? The Unitarian Church.
Oh, Unitarian.
They have 2 publishing companies. One of them was going to pick it up, but they wanted me to go more in depth and add more statistics and stuff.
The opposite of what you're doing. Right? That's what you're doing before. Huh?
That's not where I'm going. So it is really, and this book is particularly, I hope it's something that would be on the bedside table of white parents of white kids. Okay. How to discuss these issues that white families don't discuss. So it's called Meditation on Race and Parenting, and that book I hope to publish in 2019, or I will publish. And then I'm also working on some oral histories of the hall itself, and we should have something published there. And then I'm always working on my own narrative, right?
Yeah. I like the concept about, you're just talking about the hall. You can talk about all those different people who've been playing there and the whole history. That's what you're working on for that? The photos
Well,
and
actually,
stuff?
the photo documentary is about the people. See, if you were black in Bay St. Louis or in that area, you came to the hall. The hall was more than a music venue. It was an energy center for black folks. If you had a graduation party, if you had a repast, if you had Mardi Gras ball, whatever it was, it happened at the hall. Yeah. And up until Camille in 1969, it was very much a black-centered landmark. and it only changed hands in after Camille. And I'm hoping to reunite the community, but also my sort of hashtag is bringing Black back. So,
Rachel, it's been wonderful to have you on the
thank
show.
you. Thank
It's
you.
a great story.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another Meet the Author segments. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've had some great authors, and just want to encourage you to think about sponsoring our show. You can reach me on my website, and keep tuned because next week we'll have more authors here on Meet the Authors. Southern Bound Books at 1015 Howard Avenue in Biloxi is the place to go for new and used books. With an inventory of over 5,000 volumes, shoppers will find true treasures buried in the stacks. Shireen Kosmeyer opened the store 5 years ago with over 80% used books, including vintage and old collectibles. She features local authors as well. Drop by and relive old memories. Open 11 to 5:30, Monday through Saturday.